one and all, and listen to tales of excitement and adventure. Tales of daring heroes, savage monsters, and bards who just couldn't keep it in their pants. Tales of friendship, nobility, drunken foolishness, and unforgettable fun. These are tales of role-playing games, fair listeners, and this is Rollin' Bones. My name is Ryan Howard, and I shall be your guide. Good evening, Boneheads, and welcome to Rollin' Bones with Ryan Howard, your RPG treasure trove. I am your host and king of the Boneheads, Ryan Howard, and this evening we are doing another solo episode. It is just me tonight, but last time I did something like this, it was a pretty big hit, and this is another game that I really enjoy. It's a game that I've gotten to play a couple times, most notably at North Texas RPG Convention. So tonight, much like we did with Dungeon Crawl Classics, we are going to do a beginner's guide to Mutant Crawl Classics to introduce people to this lovely, weird, wacky game using pretty much the same system, actually the exact same system as Dungeon Crawl Classics, which we'll get into, and seeing what kind of crazy, wacky fun we can have in the Wastelands of Terra AD, the setting of Mutant Crawl Classics. Some of this ground we covered in an episode last year where I interviewed Jim Wampler. For those of you who don't remember, Jim is the creator of Mutant Crawl Classics. I have a couple issues of Scientific Barbarian that he sent to me that we'll be talking about at some point. But needless to say, there is a huge, thriving gaming community around Mutant Crawl Classics. A lot of the circles that I have found myself in, just kind of in the OSR world, they love them some Mutant Crawl Classics. You know, Skeeter's Crypt of the Science Wizard. So, Crypt of the Science Wizard by Skeeter Green, for anyone unfamiliar with the show, anyone seeing this for the first time. That uses Mutant Crawl Classics. Dandelion Games, Luau Lu, he puts out a lot of stuff from Mutant Crawl Classics. He's actually doing those kind of revamping of classic adventures for MCC. You know, the Silver Boulets, they do a lot of stuff for Mutant Crawl Classics. Ian McGarty actually was the first GM who ran MCC for me, so you know, that was a ton of fun. We'll talk a little bit about, you know, my experience with these things as we get into them. But ultimately, this is not a review, like I said with the DCC episode, because the review is 5 stars. This is a fantastic game. It's been out for forever, though. And, you know, you don't need another review of the system. Those of you who have heard people talk about Mutant Crawl Classics and Dungeon Crawl Classics, I understand, you know, it can be daunting getting into these particular game systems, especially if you're only familiar with 5e. You know, you'll find some stuff that seems familiar to you, but you'll find some really weird stuff. So, of course, we are going to go through, top to bottom, Mutant Crawl Classics. So, let's move on over to screen share, and I am going to actually start in a really weird place to you know, set the stage for you. Alrighty. Welcome to Mutant Crawl Classics. We're going to take a look at the cover art in just a little bit. But again, like I said, I want to kind of set the tone for you guys, because one thing I found about Mutant Crawl Classics and a lot of the games that are similar to it, they lean very heavily on a post-apocalyptic vision that doesn't really exist anymore in popular culture. This is very much the post-apocalyptic future according to the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And a lot of, what we see as post-apocalyptic really became popular in the last 15, 20 years. You look at stuff like Terminator. That was really kind of the beginning of the shift. Terminator really changed the notion of what, this far future wasteland is going to look like. And then really, even moving beyond Terminator, Walking Dead really kind of shifted this notion of what a post-apocalypse would look like from a pop culture perspective. We're firmly in the territory of stuff like Mad Max, although it's not as vehicular-based as Mad Max. But, we're looking at stuff like Commandy at Earth's End and crazy stuff like that, crazy gonzo weird stuff. So I'm going to go through the Appendix M for Mutant Crawl Classics, or for Mutant, and we'll see a little bit of the inspirations that might help you get in the right headspace for Mutant Crawl Classics. So it may seem strange in some respects to categorize Mutant Crawl Classics role-playing game as a science fiction game, when aspects of it seem to fall more solidly into the science fantasy genre. The key difference between the two subgenres is often a matter of the level of verisimilitude found within the setting. While most of the literary and media inspirations for MCCRPG date to the decades of the 60s and the 70s, this was an intentional stylistic choice purposely taken to complement the playstyle and feel of Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG, with which it is designed to be compatible. So, it's pulling from kind of these older sources because these books, both Dungeon Crawl Classics and Mutant Crawl Classics, harken back to a different era. They're modern role-playing games, but they harken back to the old school. We're firmly in OSR territory. So if anyone is watching this and wondering what OSR is, this is OSR. This is the mindset, attitude, flavor of OSR. But some of the inspirational books, comics, movies that you might want to look at: Starship by Brian Aldiss, Hot House, Daybreak, Dying Earth. Dying Earth is actually, if you are in RPGs and you haven't perused the Dying Earth series yet, you need to do so. Because Vancian magic is where, like D&D magic systems come from. So do yourself a favor and read the Dying Earth series by Jack Vance. And comics, I already mentioned Commandy, The Last Boy on Earth. It's a Jack Kirby classic. And if you're looking for kind of a more modern take on it, not too terribly long ago, I think 2018, 2019, DC Comics did what was called the Commandy Challenge, where a bunch of modern creators did an issue each of Commandy, and everyone would have to pick up where the last one left off. I don't know how that went, so me making that recommendation might not be on point, but, if you don't want to go back and read the classics, there is a modern entry point to Commandy, but you really should read the Jack Kirby original. And then movies, you're looking at Zardoz, Planet of the Apes, A Boy and His Dog, Wizards. Wizards, by the way, fundamentally weird movie. Ralph Bakshi animation. I don't know if I'll ever be able to convince Elfie to watch a Ralph Bakshi movie with me because she holds so much contempt for him from The Lord of the Rings. So, keep in mind, anyone who is only familiar with Bakshi from Lord of the Rings, that is not at all what any of the rest of his stuff is like. Most of it's pretty eclectic and weird. Damnation Alley, The Star Lost, Thundar the Barbarian. It's a great pull there. A lot of people love Thundar. Shane Hensley at one point said that he would make an RPG for Thundar the Barbarian. You know, when I asked him what property would you make an RPG for that hasn't had one, unfortunately for Shane, I think this is probably the best Thundar RPG that is ever going to be released. Although, I don't mean to say that it's unfortunate, because, you know, this is a great RPG. And then, of course, there's always stuff like Mad Max to inspire your games. There's no reason with Mutant Crawl Classics that you couldn't do a Mad Max setting. I mean, you might have to house rule some chase sequences and stuff like that. But with all the crazy stuff that you find in this game, all the artifacts, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't do Mad Max. So that's definitely in play here. And that's really what we're kind of working with. And to further cement that, I'm actually going to switch over here to a Hero Forge mini that I made. Something I'd like to do moving forward, and you know, just as I continue to do any of these like intros or anything like that, I like to make miniatures on Hero Forge just for fun. And this is Cromwell McGwen if he were in Mutant Crawl Classics, just because that's the template that I go with. He's now my version of Jack the NPC, if you like Seth Skorkowski. But you know, you've got the crazy tattoos, the mutant eyes, the sawed-off shotgun, rubble, weird alien technology. I gave him chainswords because chainswords are awesome. But yeah, this image, let this and then the rest of the much better, much more creative art that you're going to see from this book be your guide to what this crazy world of Mutant Crawl Classics is and what it can be. So, with that in mind, let's go back up to the front cover here. Look at this craziness. Look at the purple and the fuchsia. The robot fighting bugmen, the crazy skeleton man, the mohawk woman with the spear. This is Terra AD. Here's a nice little map of it. And this is the world of Mutant Crawl Classics. Looking at this, it looks like this map is kind of based on North America. I don't know. I guess. And this kind of looks like South America down here, but, you know, warped a little bit. It's probably not, but, you know, it's cool to think about stuff like that. Great piece right here. This is, here, I'm actually going to back up for this one so you guys can kind of take it in all at once on your screen. But yeah, this is the kind of craziness that you are about to get yourself into. Fun splash page here, and the credits. So much like DCC before it, the credits pages here are all in a really cool, really funky layout. So obviously this game is written and designed by Jim Wampler, as we already mentioned, based on DCC by Joseph Goodman. And then, you know, Joseph Goodman was the art director, Jim Wampler did the layout, Doug Kovacs on the cover. He's also got some interior work in here, along with, you know, Russ Nicholson. Jim has some pieces in here himself. Fred Daly, Chris Arneson, Tom Galambos, Frederick Haas, Cliff Karowski, Barry James, Doug Kovacs, like I already mentioned, William McCalston, Brad McDevitt, Jesse Mon, Peter Mullen. By the way, Peter Mullen was that opening page right here. This is what Peter Mullen's work looks like. You guys have probably seen it, because I'm pretty sure he had some stuff in DCC, if nothing else. And he's a legend. Russ Nicholson, also a legend. You guys already know that. Stefan Pogue. On and on. And moving on down, we get to the table of contents, which I will back up on. Not quite at... Actually, no, I take that back. Taking this in all at once, you've got the alien on the control panel. These are his screens. So this is your table of contents. And I'm going through this because I really love the design here. Is it the easiest thing in the world to read? Probably not, but I don't necessarily care about that for this book. Obviously, an RPG book should be a good reference book, but the design here, it's not all that difficult to read. And it's design first. It's making this look cool first, which, you know, I can't complain too much about that. But we are going to skip forward a little bit and get into character creation. Although I guess here, let's... You got a forward here by Jim Ward. Again, another name which should be widely known to anyone watching this. Jim Ward, for anyone who doesn't know, was the creator of Gamma World, which this is heavily based on. This is a spiritual successor to Gamma World. You know, Jim Wampler very much learned from Jim Ward about gaming and stuff like that. So this is it's nice to have kind of this official seal of approval from Jim Ward here to kick things off. Preface by Jim, and then you get into introduction. And already you can see here, this is very reminiscent of Ralph Bakshi's The Wizards. I won't pull up any pictures, not because I'm afraid of getting sued, but because if you start Googling around Wizard, 1977 Wizards, you get some weird stuff. Because there's some weird stuff in that movie, like things flying on swastikas and fairy creatures, and, you know, all kinds of weirdness. But this image right here is very reminiscent of Wizards. And so this is just an introduction to, you know, what is MCC and a little bit about Terra AD, which, as mentioned here, is a primitive world dominated by the bizarre side effects of an ancient holocaust known only as the Great Disaster. Millennia after this cataclysmic extinction event, the world, now known as Terra AD, after disaster, has regrown into a lush tropical wilderness. The life forms that survive and flourish on Terra AD did so because natural selection rewarded their ancestors for possessing either very plastic or very hardy genomes. Plants and animals with wild and unstable mutations permeate the ecosystem and the food chain. Though some species have settled down into relatively stable body plans and are capable of reproducing true to form, there is still the chance in any given birth of a new mutation arising. So, we have this mashup of a hunter-gatherer society, which we'll get into, you know, a whole bunch of nomadic tribes of creatures wandering around, and the remnants of technology. So you'll find crazy stuff from the time of the disaster, which includes like space-age technology. Which is why my character had a mohawk, but also was wearing a cut-off leather jacket and had a shotgun. Because that is par for the course in Mutant Crawl Classics. So, just a couple of introductions here. The Ancient Ones. It is generally accepted amongst the denizens of Terra AD that there once existed a legendary race of unknown type that ruled and ordered the world with an arcane force known as technology. While nearly every sentient species makes an apocryphal claim to be direct descendants of these protean techno-wizards of millennia past, the evidence of their existence is inarguable. Though long since passed out of all memory, the imperishable artifacts and ruined haunts of the Ancient Ones were manufactured of some incomprehensibly durable substance, with such super scientific know-how as to be virtually immune to the ravages of passing centuries. Many such devices and places may yet be discovered relatively intact by those brave enough to plumb the taboo lands of Terra AD. So this is your excuse for dungeon crawling. Your characters are exploring. They're reavers. They're exploring these ruined sites to harvest technology, and to thrive and survive with that in mind. So the core mechanics here, this is pretty much the same as DCC. You have the crazy dice, which I have a set of right here. These are DCC dice, but it's the same dice chain. So again, just to reiterate the dice chain, you go D3, D4, D5, D6, D7, D8, D10, D percentile 10, which is the D100, D12, D14, D16, D20, D24, and D30. And so you will frequently be asked to roll 1d20, add or subtract modifiers, and the goal is to roll high and beat a difficulty class or DC. Sometimes the DC will have very specific terms. 1's an automatic miss, 20 is an automatic hit. There are crit tables in this one, just like there are in DCC. So that's still here, because it's awesome. And this is another thing that I like as a holdover from DCC. Just, what's familiar, what's different here. So we don't have prestige classes, attacks of opportunity feats, any of the stuff that you see in 4th edition, 3.5 edition, or even 5th edition in some of these cases. Pure strain humans select from one of 4 classes at first level. For mutants, manimals, and plantients, their races and their classes are the same thing. We use ascending armor class, always great. Attack saves and skill checks are a d20, adding modifiers. 3 saving throws, fortitude, reflex, willpower. Critical hit tables. And PCs can burn off ability scores to enhance some dice rolls. All characters can burn luck. Shamans, mutants, manimals, and plantients can burn other abilities. We'll get to that. And then here are some of the other stuff, some of the other stuff that is unique to Mutant Crawl Classics. So healer's naturopathy ability, or naturopath abilities, are quick, near-instant healing abilities derived from an oral tradition of local herb used and biofeedback techniques. Shaman's wetware programs are cast with a program check, 1d20, add a modifier, try to score high, and the higher the roll, the more effective the result. It's like the spellcasting table from DCC. And each program has a chart, so yeah, spellcasting from DCC. Shamans may or may not lose their wetware programs, just like in DCC, and wetware programs are always granted to a shaman by a Patron Ais. So the cool thing about magic in this particular system is it's from computers. It's the Arthur C. Clarke notion of any technology of a certain sophistication level would appear magical to cultures unfamiliar with it. So, we've gone all the way around the bend. We're so far in the future that technology is, weird and foreign and dangerous. So all the magic is clothed in technology. And if you add DCC to the mix, then you get, regular technology, or you get the techno magic mixed with actual magic, and some weird things can happen there. So, with that, actually, take a look at this nice piece of art here. Fantastic. Character creation, and here we get, I love these little bits that they put in here. You're no hero. You're a wasteland wanderer, a mutant, a seeker, a robot killer, a stoic shaman guarding forgotten ancient sciences. You seek triumph and technology, winning it with mutations and magic, soaked in the radiation and quantum fields of the altered, the savage, the semi-sentient, and the artificially intelligent. There are treasures to be won in the taboo lands and ruins, and you shall have them. And this is from the Curator Prime, Reltmal Samaj, or Samaj. Which, for those of you who can't read backwards, James Wampler. I just realized that, so don't feel too bad. Anyway. Character creation here is very, very similar to DCC. You're starting at 0 level and you're going to be put through a funnel. Unless you skip the funnel part, in which case, okay, but you're missing out. So you roll your ability scores, which I believe is, let's see, ability scores, 3d6 in order, yep. Just making sure. So yeah, you roll your ability scores, you adjust your modifiers, attack score and saving throw. You roll a d4 for 0 level hit points. You roll on the table for your beginning profession. Roll your birth sign, which is what you get to add your luck to. Oh, hey, Lou, welcome. And for anyone who is not going to be able to see the chats or miss that as it came in, Lou is recommending the Enchiridion of the Computarchs and Bronx Beasts as add-ons for the game. I definitely butchered the pronunciation of those words, but they're fake words, so everyone probably pronounces them differently. But apparently those help with the Manimal and Shaman. And that's something I'll get into when we get into classes. The Manimal and the Shaman are very vague in what they offer. So having those supplemental books, like Lou is pointing out here, that does help. And these things are, in a lot of cases, vague on purpose so that you can do stuff like that. You can, riff on them a little bit, kind of make them your own, but, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, you roll twice for additional beginning equipment, roll your genotype, determine genotype appearance or subtype, if any, and choose an archaic alignment. There's a mention here of the Xochi dice, the weird dice, and the dice chain. And just as a reminder, I'll read the dice chain bit here. One of the most fun aspects of using weird dice in a rule set is getting to roll those dice. Many additional RPGs utilize modifiers to dice rolls as a way to express improved success or failure in an action. For example, an attack with an offhand weapon may incur a -4 penalty, or an attack against a motionless opponent may grant a +4 bonus. In addition to, and sometimes in place of, this traditional modifier system, MCC uses the dice chain system of swapping out die types when and where the modifier is sufficiently large. Although D20 is the core dice mechanic in the game, there are times where the player may be instructed to roll a D16 or a D24 instead, depending on whether the action has improved or reduced chance of success. So yeah. Some things will knock you up the chain, some will knock you down the chain. It just depends on, the circumstances. Again, much like Dungeon Crawl Classics. And ability scores, once again, we have strength, agility, stamina, personality, intelligence, and luck. Strength, agility, and stamina are pretty self-explanatory. Strength, as my T-shirt that I'm wearing tonight, but you guys can't see, says strength is whether or not you can crush a tomato. Agility is how far you can throw a tomato. Stamina, I guess in this case, would be whether or not you can eat a tomato or how you react to eating a tomato. Although I guess it's more, since it affects your fortitude saving throw, I guess it's how many tomatoes you can eat. Personality is being able to sell someone a fruit salad with tomato in it. Intelligence is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. And luck is taking a bite of a tomato and realizing that you grabbed an apple by mistake. And luck is really kind of the central stat that these games, DCC and MCC, do really well. Because luck, you can burn it to increase rolls. Your character's luck modifier affects other rolls in the game, critical hits, fumbles, and select other rolls as described henceforth. You can make luck checks to attempt feats that succeed based on luck alone. And luck can be restored over the course of adventures by, grants from the judge, restoration process. Some classes can generate luck. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But yeah, luck is super important. And then here we have, this is the chart of ability modifiers. So, like if you're a shaman, your modifiers will help determine how many programs you can know and what, the highest level program is based on your ability score. It also determines your tech level. So this is being able to identify, the tech level is being able to identify artifacts with an artifact check, which is important because some characters get bonuses, some don't. And this helps you, again, identify some of this weird tech that you're finding. And, as this is mentioned here, pure strain humans and plantients can renew their luck score at a defined rate, which we'll get to. And then this mentions hopeless characters. So, this mentions a character that can die during creation process. This is basically your innkeeper rule here. So if you possess a 3 stamina score and would have a -3 modifier to hit points rolled at 0 level, if you result in negative hit points, you die. So yeah, your character can die in generation. Statistically, it is possible. And it is also possible for a 0-level character to start the game severely handicapped by unlucky ability score rolls during character creation. Judges should encourage players to play even these 1 HP wonders, as many things can happen to the character during the course of play. And likely what's going to end up happening if you're running the funnels at 0 level, you're probably going to have to roll up 5 or 6 of these characters, just depending on how harsh your judge is. And unlike DCC, this is where this game kind of, diverges. DCC, because it's a medieval fantasy game, you had that whole long list of possible professions. In Mutant Crawl Classics, you get 2. You roll a D100. I don't know why they didn't just make it a D4, but you roll a D100. 1 through 50, you're a hunter. 51 through 100, you're a gatherer. Yeah, as Lou is mentioning in chat here, you can encounter things that mutate your characters, things that change your stats, you know, because of the weird unknown nature of a lot of things out there, certain things can happen that will forever alter your character's stats. In the game that Ian McGarty ran, there was a machine where you stuck your arm in and it gave you mutations, depending on how well you rolled, for, I believe it was a fortitude save. And some of that stuff did raise and lower people's stats, or give them alternate mutations, just depending on, again, what they rolled. So you can enter the world with 1 HP, you can, you know, fall into a vat of toxic waste, for lack of a better word, and end up, you know, having your stats completely shift. So that is definitely possible in the world of Terra AD. And then you roll your birth sign. So this is the character's lucky roll. So DCC kind of explains this better. There are some things in life that some people just seem to have unnatural luck with. And, you know, I mentioned my little sister, Katie, could always pull off the 30% off coupon on the Kohl's mailer that would come on Sundays. So Mom would always put the Kohl's mailer in front of Katie and say, all right, pull me a 30%. And more often than not, Katie did it. So, you know, I don't know what that birth sign would be here. Maybe the Warbot gives you a better chance to pull 30% off and extra Kohl's cash, but I don't know. This is the way that MCC and DCC, you know, simulate that particular facet of life. And so with these, you know, you can use your luck modifier on you know, your inherent lucky rolls. So, you know, you roll your D30 and, you know, you get the CPU and you get to add your luck modifier to initiative, or you get to add it to your armor class, the bunker. You know, saving throws versus poison for the healer. Nuclear winter, all attack rolls. The Roxin, all melee attack rolls. The unchanging defect rolls. All kinds of great stuff. And then your beginning equipment. Everyone starts off with, I believe, yeah, a flint dagger and a water skin. And then you roll 2 times on this table to determine an additional piece of equipment, which could be a stone axe, flint fire starter, jerked Roxin meat, you know, on down the line. It's like, you know, some of the additional goods that you get in DCC. And yes, as Lou mentions here, I'll zoom in on this, because if I ever convince Elfie to play a game of Mutant Crawl Classics, she's gonna be really bummed out if she doesn't roll this. But on a result of 98 or 100, you get a telepathic rat with a 1d3 attack. That is your pet. So you may enter the crazy world of Terra AD with a telepathic rat friend. This game is cuckoo bananas, and I love it. And then down here it mentions your saving throws, fortitude, reflex, and willpower. And let's see. I believe it mentions, I don't remember where the saving throws are mentioned. I think that's up here. So let's move back up here. Ability scores. Maybe I haven't gotten to it yet. Let's see. So we're going to jump forward a little bit just to talk about saving throws here. Well, it doesn't say what stats there. I guess that's up here under ability score modifiers. Yep. Yeah, Lou is right. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Lou. I appreciate it. Because even though I have played the game, I am not as literate in the player's handbook as I am with like 5e. So yeah, stamina is your fortitude saving throw, and let's see, agility is reflex. And I believe, yeah, personality is willpower. There we go. So fortitude, reflex, and willpower. Now, genotypes. You roll a D100 at the beginning to determine what you are as far as your genotype. This is how you present. So instead of it being tied to your profession like it is in DCC, it's tied to this genotype roll. So if you roll a D100, you are a pure strain, or sorry, on a 1 through 32, you're a pure strain human, and that opens up the classes of Sentinel, Shaman, Healer, and Rover. If you roll 33 through 66 for Mutant, 67 through 88 for Manimal, or 89 through 100 for Plantient, then you will level with those as your class. Mutant, Manimal, and Plantient are your class. They can mutate. Radiation does not affect pure strain humans. So the additional mutations won't necessarily take effect in the same way that they do with Mutant, Manimal, and Plantient if you are a pure strain human. And then your genotype, if you're a mutant, you roll on this table, which, you know, mentions the different, genotypic indicators of your mutation. You can have crazy skin texture, skin color, eyes, mouth, head, hair, hands. Your hands can be tentacles. They can be replaced with tentacle fingers. Your feet can be hooves. They can be bird talons. You can have 12 toes. So these are all just, crazy different ways that your character can present, their mutations. Each one, you roll a d6. If you're a manimal, this is how you determine what type you are. Primate, canine, feline, ursine, bovine, suidae, rodentia, amphibia, avian, insecta, or roll again on the table. And if I remember correctly, I was a warthog. I played a warthog man in Ian's game. In Skeeter's game, in Crypt of the Science Wizard, I was a pure strain human sentinel. And we'll get to that story again in just a little bit for anyone who forgot it. Once we start talking about classes, though, we'll get into that. And then you have the plantient subtypes. You can be a conifer, a deciduous, fruit-bearing, fern, vine, shrub, tropical, cacti, mosses, or fungi. And I don't think I mentioned this yet, but just to let you guys know, mutant, you're like a mutated human. Manimal, that's pretty on the nose there. You are an animal-human hybrid. Plantient, you are a plant creature. And they are fun and hilarious and weird, and you want to have one on your side. If you're one of those people who really, really cares about really cares about like your party balance and optimization and, you know, making sure you've got like one of everything in your party. A Plantient, even though you're rolling randomly in this game, if you can pick your character types, a Plantient is a valuable asset to have in the Wasteland. Because they're basically luck generators. And so all level 0 genotypes can be Clan of the Cog. And pure strain humans can be the curators. Mutants can become Children of the Glow. And manimals can be the Chosen Zoo. Plantients get to be the Atomic Equinox if they want to. This mentions the alignments over here. Your programs and spells will be tied to them. And Chapter 5 will detail the alignments a little bit better. But yeah, that's basically what you're doing. And then this mentions, you know, what the life of a seeker is. You're looking for ancient technology to harvest and to understand. You level with XP, and once you reach level 1, you either continue leveling as the class that you rolled, if you're a mutant, manimal, or plantient, or if you are a human, you can level as a sentinel, shaman, or healer. XP table, just like in DCC. And, you know, this is exactly what I just said. So, character classes. Another great piece of art here. And the Sentinel. The Sentinel is essentially the fighter-barbarian hybrid here. So you get 1d12 hit points at each level. You do have a natural affinity for understanding artifact, armor, and weapons. So if anything is armor or weapon, you will have, you know, ability to understand it. Anything beyond that, you know, your mileage may vary, but you will have a little bit of a bonus to artifact checks. And artifact checks with weapons and armor. And you gain an added advantage when mastering and using technological weapons and armor. At each level, Sentinels add an extra artifact die to their artifact check when examining artifact weapons and armor. So yes, you get to roll an additional die and add it to your total for artifact checks. Again, this is specific for weapons and armor. There's a separate artifact check bonus which you get just, you know, because. Because you're pure strain, you have Darwinian luck, so you regain 1 luck point for each 24-hour period you're adventuring. This is good to have because, you know, this allows you basically to burn luck to, you know, up your attack rolls, is the mechanical advantage of having this. You can do the same thing for the casters as well. And you get a +2 to recognize AI. So again, because the lines between magic and technology have been so heavily blurred by distance and time, AIs might not be as recognizable to your characters as they might be to you yourself. So you run across a robot that seems to be super intelligent, there's a chance your character might think it's a god. But humans, because they are, you know, more attuned to this kind of thing, they are, you know, better able to recognize AIs. And you can choose the Clan of the Cog or the Curators as your archaic alignments. Oh! Okay, Lou, thank you. Thank you for pointing out. That's important. Okay. So, strike that, correction. It's not you recognizing AIs, although that is probably something that would happen theoretically. This is AIs recognizing you. Or recognizing you as, you know, like Lou says here in chat here, a user. someone who can interface with the AI. So as a pure strain humans, AIs will be able to recognize you. I'm glad you appreciate my fumble as an actual cool mechanic there, Lou. And I'm glad you corrected me, because people in the YouTube comments are going to like eat me alive for making that mistake. But basically, the judge will roll to see if the AI recognizes your inputs, and you get a +2 as a human because you resemble the Ancient Ones. So yeah, there's that. And I love the titles in DCC and MCC. So Sentinels, Recruit, Trooper, Specialist, Commander, Sentinel. 5th is name level Sentinel Supreme. Cool artwork of the Sentinel. And then you get into the Shaman. These are the main kind of wizard casters in MCC. So pure strain humans of high intelligence often become shamans, specialize in ancient lore and knowledge, particularly focusing upon legend and myth associated with those demigod servants of the Ancient Ones. So fewer hit points this level, or each level, 1d4. You get a much higher artifact check bonus, from the get-go. Because of your, inner knowledge of the inner workings of technology. You choose an AI patron, which grants you access to wetware programs. You can invoke patron with your AI. So it's kind of a hybrid of like a wizard and a cleric or a warlock, in that you're interfacing with the god program, basically, and it's granting you abilities. A really interesting take on Vancian magic. Kind of brilliant, actually. I love it. You also get Darwinian luck, so you don't get it as much as the Sentinel does. You regain 1 point per 7 days, but that does give you extra resources to burn for your spellcasting. You also get the +2 to AI recognition, and you can also choose Clan of Cog or the Curators. Looks like you can max out your wetware at level 5. Name level for a Shaman is actually 3rd level. And again, just so everyone knows, we talked about this in DCC. Max level is 10. You can probably go higher. Just you really stop gaining benefits at level 10, and you are stopped. Your name stops at level 6. So there's that. Here's a nice combination max headroom and like HP Lovecraft thing that's really super cool. God, the art in this book is amazing. And then you get into healers, natural caregivers, adherents to the most holy and respected of life paths, are experts in naturopathy and the medicinal uses of fruits, leaves, and berries. D8 hit points each level. Slightly better bonus to artifact checks than what the Sentinel gets, but you're not a shaman. You do have a kind of a natural affinity for medical artifacts, though. And with naturopathy, you are... Let's see. You can use these techniques 2 times per day per level, which, grants healing by the die type that you can see here on this chart that I just highlighted all of. +2 to AI recognition, and you also have the Holy Medicinal Order as far as alignments once you reach level 4. Which is just below name level. You were a doctor at that point, but not a torpedo technician or a miracle worker or, insert your own Star Trek joke. Some healers. And a rover. This is your kind of rogue ranger type character. 1d6 hit points per level, natural affinity for understanding the artifacts of the ancients, so you're going to have a higher artifact check. You also have a bonus to, interfacing with doors and security systems, being able to hack those and also remain hidden. You get the same luck bonus, same AI recognition bonus, and the same alignments as most of the other ones. Name level is 5th level again. And I forgot to mention this, but your the attack melee and missile bonuses are same mechanics as DCC. So each level you'll have an additional bonus to your attack. Anyway. And now Mutant. This is the race class hybrid, or the first race class hybrid, with a D5 hit points. You're descendants of the Ancient Ones, but unlike your, pure strain humans, you've got some mutations. And at first level, you get random 1d3 physical mutations and 1d2 mental mutations from table 3.2, which we can look at later. And you can get a bonus to initiative because of your crazy appearance, which is great. Mutant Horror initiative bonus. And if you lose all of your mutations for any reason, again, like Lou mentioned earlier, you can gain and lose mutations as you go, depending on what you find. Your genome hardens and you become a pure strain human. At that point, you enter one of the classes at first level, and you can't gain mutations again. So if you lose all of your mutations, you become a pure strain human, and you have to level as one of the human classes. And then you lose the ability to take on mutations ever again. So, maybe that's a bonus for you, maybe not. I don't know. But mutants are cool. Because you can do stuff like Radburn. So if you're exposed to radiation or other mutanogens, you can develop or lose mutations, which that's what Radburn is. We'll talk about that in Chapter 3. Glowburn. You can use this stuff to activate your mutant powers to boost the effects. Again, we'll talk about that. AI recognition. It's just a +1 bonus because of your mutations. And then you can be Clan of Cog or Children of the Glow. And with this, you get certain mutant powers or mutations that grant powers depending on, what you're doing. 5th level is name level. And Manimals. 1d7 hit points. Once again, you are an animal-human hybrid here. And you get 1d2 random physical and 1 random mental mutation based on the table. You have a natural attack with bite or claw, just kind of depending on how your mutations manifest. And when coordinating melee attacks on the same target, Manimals gain a +1 attack for each Manimal attacking a single opponent. So you basically get the Null's pack tactics from D&D, which is cool. It's nice to have on the player side. So you don't really get that much of a bonus for artifact checks. You don't have a natural affinity. You are affected by Radburn. You can use Glowburn if you have mutant powers that applies to. Yeah, what Lou points out here, once we look at the mutations table, it does seem that the one of the flaws in this game system is the fact that the Manimal mutations don't line up well with the fact that you are a human-animal hybrid. So Lou is recommending Bronx Beast, which is available. Is that available on Goodman Games site, Lou? I guess I can look that up. Let's see. Goodman Games. And Lou is drawing comparisons to the Palladium TMNT game, which a lot of people love that, so. If that's you, then let's see. Bronx Beast. Here it is. Compatible with DCC and MCC. But yeah, this is its own separate game rules book that does help with the mutation side of things. And also you can use it to do like your TMNT game, like Lou mentioned. So it's, it's worth the money, at least in my opinion. And the Manimals, this is one thing I'll say about the Manimals. They've got great titles. These titles are phenomenal. Omega Cub, Theta Soldier, Gamma Trooper, Beta Commander, Alpha Leader, and Alpha Pack Leader. That's fantastic. That is great. And here you see, there's a Warthog Man, similar to the one that I played. You got a Bug Man, some kind of weird Yak Man, Monkey Man, and an Eagle Man. And then the Plantiants. Oh, Plantiants. These things are fun. D5 hit points per each level, 1d3 random physical mutations. You've got a natural D4 Thorn or Spine missile attack. And you don't really get that much of a bonus. Actually, starting off, you have a negative artifact check because Plantians don't care. But your big mechanic here, as far as being a benefit to yourself and to the party, Plantians naturally excrete fragrances, pollen, and spores that cause most creatures to treat them favorably, even if only subconsciously. Thus, Plantiant characters are naturally lucky and gain 2 points of luck for every 1 point spent. They may donate this luck to others if they so choose. Plantiants regenerate luck at a rate of 2 luck points per level per 24-hour period. So, if you spend a luck point, you get 2 more. You're heavily incentivized to use luck points. Again, you are a luck machine, and you can give them out to your party members. So, again, having a Plantiant in the party is a great asset. Plantiants are not recognized by AIs. And in most outdoor settings, Plantiant characters have only to remain still to gain an automatic 50% chance of hiding successfully. This chance of successfully hiding goes up by 5% for each level gained. So, what that means is You know, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. At 10th level, if you stand still outside, you're just a tree. It's great. There'd still be a slight chance, just, you know, for the judge's sake. Just so you're not too OP. But, you know, you're pretty much invisible if you stand still outside as a Plantient at 10th level. And, of course, you are affected by Radburn. You can use Glowburn, and you've got the Atomic Equinox and the Clan of the Cog as your alignment options. And that's it for the classes. Let's talk a little bit about mutations. So, you've got your active and passive mutations. Active are, you know, powers, essentially. Passive ones are, you know, they'll up stats or do things like that. And defects are harmful and unpleasant mutations of generally disadvantageous nature. So you get your metagenes at level 1. Those are the ones that you roll here. And then Radburn, if you are exposed to radiation or some kind of mutagen, you roll a d20 on a result of 1 to 2. For all 3, you gain a defect. 3 to 13... 3 to 13 for a mutant, 3 to 15 for a manimal, and 3 to 20 for a Plantient. You get a physical mutation, and then 14 to 20 for a mutant, or 16 to 20 for a manimal. You get a mental mutation. Plantients don't get mental mutations, unfortunately. But you generate luck, so, you know, you take your wins and losses where you can get them. And then Radburn, basically, it's, you know, you make a fortitude saving throw. If you roll a 1, you lose 1 random mutation or defect. If you make the saving roll by, you know, a natural 20, then a mutant character gains 1 new random mutation or defect. So basically, you're looking to pass the save. And then you add your class level. And, you know, you roll your dice, add your class level, and this is the results of Radburn. You get to roll on the table after that. And then Glowburn. Beginning at first level, characters may elect to use Glowburn to increase mutation check roll. Glowburn use must be announced in advance, and you burn off a point of a physical attribute to add 1 point to your mutation check for every point burned off of your abilities. In-game, you're eating radioactive material. So you're taking a bite out of some uranium to hopefully, you know, grow wings. So I'm gonna throw out the disclaimer of kids don't try this at home. You're not a manimal, but you know, at least in the world of Mutant Crawl Classics, the idea of, you know, chowing down on a hoagie made out of plutonium might actually be a net positive for your character. And then you get to mutations. Physical mutations, you know, you roll your D100. That's an interesting mechanic there. So Lou makes his characters like harvest stuff for Radburn. So if you want to get additional mutations at Lou's table, basically he has his players, you know, salvage certain things, and then you can use them as, you know, it's a crapshoot whether or not this is going to work, but here, let's try it. But yeah, your mutations, it's a D100 on the table. 1 through 5, you get a defect. Unless you are rolling on defects, then you get 2. So that may stack. You might want to be careful with that, rolling defects. So you roll like a 1 through 5 twice in a row, you're looking at 4 defects. And yes, I will enforce it that way. But there are all kinds of cool things here. You know, you can get a carapace, you can get claws, gas generation. With mental mutations, you get stuff like mind control, mental shields, mental blasts, you know, force field generation, all that stuff. And then you have mega mutations, which if you roll a 98 through 100, at that point, you know, you're looking at some of these other crazy ones that are physical and mental. And there's an explanation down here of all of them. It's a huge, long portion that we won't get into, but there are some great options here for different mutations, physical and mental. Picoto, I'm right there with you. I already have gas generation myself. I made chili on Halloween, so, you know, eating that leftover chili is definitely increased. It's like glow burn for my gas generation, the chili that I made. But chili on Halloween is, in fact, a tradition, so we keep doing it. And of course, you know, the defects are, you know, your typical things. You have an asymmetrical body, attraction odor, you lose a body part, delayed reaction, all kinds of crazy stuff. Yes, chili is great. I love me some chili. And I make it with skillet cornbread. Magnifique. It's great. Anyway, combat and skills, this is very much the same as DCC. It's, you know, you're rolling a dice and adding your modifiers to hit the target number. We don't really have to get into this too terribly much. Obviously, you've got the critical tables, and these are different for each class. Then you have the fumble table. And luck burning. So each character can permanently burn luck to give a one-time bonus to a roll. You can burn 6 points to get a +6 modifier, but your luck score is now 6 points lower. And again, Plantiants and your pure strain humans are, you know, they're able to generate luck at a certain rate. Oh, no, didn't mean to click on that. Anyway, getting into some of these archaic alignments as we're, you know, getting towards the end of our time here. The Clan of the Cogs, or Clan of Cog, they're adherents to the Enlightened belief system. It's you know, prevalent among tribal sentients of all genotypes. The terrifying wilds of Terra AD, one's chances of survival increase exponentially if one respects and cooperates with all intelligent beings. So these are the Clan of Cog is just like, you know, we're all going to get along here. This is your main, you know, alignment here. You have safe passage through their territories and the right to invoke clan hospitality, and your secret sign is a circle traced on your forehead. Chosen Zoo, this is your Manimals clan. Pretty much you're just, just Manimals here. Merit-based rank in paramilitary organization that is universally recognized among all alignment members, shared material resources and intelligence among members and allies. Clenched right paw, actually on the upper left torso, so there you go. Children of the Glow. This is mutant, manimal, or plantient. You must undergo a trial consisting of spending 1 week in a known radioactive area and surviving the experience, proving the devotion and piety to the individual's belief in the glow. So basically, you're worshiping the glow here, and your increase in powers and abilities, that's from the glow. It's a gift from the glow. The Curators. You can join if you are a pure strain human, mutant, or manimal, if you kind of, believe in what they're looking for. So basically, this is, you're devoted to technology and gathering and trading technology. You get +1 to your artifact checks. And it looks like it is something like this. With a head nod. And then if you're one of the more inclusive ones, welcome. But if not, then you just bow your head and you're like, all right, peasant, what do you want? Atomic Equinox. This is for Plantients and select pure strain humans. You can't be lost in the wilderness, or the wilderness containing plants. You can still get lost in the desert. And you are reliably able to locate sources of fresh water. Holy Medicinal Order, Batman. This is mostly for NPC characters. But you can't fight. PC of any genotype may join, but must forswear to forever give up all martial arts or combat under pain of excommunication from the Order. So you're universally treated as a non-combatant. And if you bring harm to a monk of the Holy Medicinal Order, that's not cool. People aren't going to like that. So try to avoid doing that. It would be interesting to have a character join the Holy Medicinal Order. Would be interesting to then enforce that on players, because this is the cleric problem that Professor Dungeon Master has addressed. Your religion as a cleric in a D&D type game may forbid you from doing certain things. So if your party gets a little bit rough with a prisoner that they took, you as a cleric might be compelled by your god to not heal the people who did the torturing. Or you might be punished for allowing it to happen. So, let's say you have a PC who wants to join the Holy Medicinal Order. Yes, you have someone who can't be attacked, but that person can't participate in combat. So, again, interesting things to work with here. Then you have the Gene Police. An ancient and savage secret society bent upon eliminating all mutation from the face of Terra AD. So this is like, the pure strain humans looking at, killing off all the mutations. And it's mostly for NPCs. You probably shouldn't have your PCs try to do this. These are enemies. And then the Blessed Brotherhood or the Vile Brotherhood, also mostly NPCs. An elite priesthood of mutants with superior mental mutations. So again, these are also like NPC bad guys. Yes, Pakoto, but the Dream Police live inside of your head. That's the main difference. And they're coming to arrest me. Oh no. And then AIs. So your AIs here, we're just going to go over this real quick. AI recognition roles, this is what Lou and I were talking about earlier. Basically, pure-strain humans are very easily recognizable by AIs as users. So it's 1d20 plus your genotype modifier, plus other modifiers. When you're being recognized by the AI. And Plantians don't get AI recognition roles because they're not humans. They're plants. So Plantians can't interface with AIs, but even like a manimal might be able to. And we have a table that's helpful for AI recognition roles. -4 for manimal. Mutants, just you get no bonus. Pure strain human, +2. +1 additional if you're in the clothes of the Ancient Ones. If you're a mutant with no visible mutations, you get a +1. Visible mutations, it can vary. Primate manimals get a +1, and then PC with functioning comm badges get a +2 to +4 depending on their clearance. And then the artificial intelligences. If it's a domestic appliance, toy, household bot, or household hologram, I have a reputation for being obsessed with the Brave Little Toaster. So just as a warning to anyone who plays in an MCC game that I may GM in the future, you bet your ass that you will run into the Brave Little Toaster at some point. Whether or not you can interface with him, we shall see. And then, merely being recognized by the AI is only a first step towards possibly matter. So, important AIs were programmed only to respond to humans with sufficient security clearances. So, if you had the comm badge, like it mentioned, with a security clearance, it may unlock different features of the AI for you. And yes, Brave Little Toaster is surprisingly dark. And you have artifact AIs, which is like, your magic weapons in, medieval RPGs that are intelligent. You may have to interface with an AI to use a specific artifact, depending on what you find. There's also the Patron AIs, which are discussed in Chapter 9. This is where spellcasting comes from. And then these are, your typical types of artificial intelligences here in Table 6-2. And, it gets into different types here. So you've got, androids, immortals, simulants, synthezoids, replicants, computer AIs, mainframes of order, grid of net neutrality, matrix of entropy, cyborgs, covert ops, advanced covert ops, drone and military, hard light and soft light holograms, resurrection holograms. Resurrection holograms, you are dealing with Arnold Rimmer. I made a lot of references here. Personal assistants. And then robots, or robots, if we're going by Levi Combs' rules of pronunciation. And those are your artificial intelligences. These are all things that you can find. artifacts. So artifacts, I mean, these are things of technology that you can find in, different places. Be they toasters, laser guns, a Walkman, a Discman, an MP3 player, a lot of music players, a boombox. So one thing that this stresses, you have to go the extra mile in describing these things in a very foreign way, like describing a Walkman to someone who has never seen one, which is a lot easier if your players are under 20. Yes, a disintegrator cannon with a wide array nozzle, that's possible. And for people out there who know my age, yes, I have seen a Walkman. I remember a time where tapes were ubiquitous. I owned a few. I'm 25, so I definitely remember having tapes. And yes, as Lou says, if it goes on too long, you can get super irritated with your players and with yourself, and constantly having to be like this weird thing that you don't recognize. I will say though, Skeeter was great at doing it in Crypt of the Science Wizard. He described what was essentially a server room in a fantastic way that I didn't realize what it was until we got a certain way into the description. It was great. It's fantastic. And that server room was bazonkers. So you've got some examples here. Dazer Pistol, Household Bot, a small metal tube with a grip and buttons. You saw it fire a beam of pink energy. Or a small hard stick you could hold in one hand. So yes, you can go crazy with it, but keep Lou's warning in mind here. You can drive yourself nuts trying to describe things, especially like on the fly. So yeah, it can be a little much sometimes. So keep that in mind. Combat artifact checks. Roll 1d20 on this table, and, different things can happen, so artifacts can break. And so there will arise occasions when a player character will wish to grab an unknown artifact in the middle of combat and attempt to quickly guess its function and use it. So you have to burn 1 luck point. You get 1 round to execute it. And you just roll a d20, basically. You can add luck, but, you roll a d20 to see what it does. Everyday artifacts, this is where, like, here's a lamp. Here's a toaster. Here's a refrigerator. Here's a massagey chair. And it's got, power source. Here's an atomic, cybernetic massagey chair that is in serviceable condition. And you get Radburn from it. Roll Radburn. Roll Radburn from the atomic massagey chair. And here you've got, different artifact types. So you've got your Dazer, Phaser, Gauzer, Laser, and Mazer pistols. Same thing with rifles. You have neutron rifles, EMP grenades, force baton, plasma sword, zapper glove. I used a zapper glove in the Skeeter story where I took on one of the Eternals, or not one of the Eternals, one of the Celestials, like a Jack Kirby type creation in Crypt of the Science Wizard, because my character went crazy after failing a saving throw. One of the other players tried to restrain me, and I zapped him with a zapper glove. Because I was going to kill that thing, and nothing was going to stop me. There was a... Yeah, Lou, those octopuses are no joke. You fail that saving throw, you're just going to go nuts. And the next couple rooms, those are not places you want to go nuts in. Because there's all kinds of stuff that can just kill you. And if you're not careful in the Crypt of the Science Wizard, without giving too much away, you know, if you don't keep your wits about you, you're going to die. And even if you do keep your wits about you, if someone else doesn't, you're going to die. And here we have a bestiary. These are all kinds of crazy creatures and things you can... That's a T-Rex made out of cactuses. Oh, this game. This is fantastic. That is a T-Rex made out of cactuses. That is fantastic. And just as we, you know, I won't go through all of this, like spider goat, caprapod. It's a spider goat. But yeah, there's all kinds of crazy things in here, you know, from like, you know, devils, gopher men. Oh, they just kind of, you know, like dig underground and stuff. Piranha bats. Okay, Lou, what's a real thing? A spider goat's a real thing. Oh my goodness. That's terrifying. What is a spider goat? Okay, genetically modified goat. This is why it's good to have someone who knows stuff about agriculture here in chat, because I don't know this stuff. So, genetically modified goats to produce spider silk for experimentation. Oh, goodness. We didn't learn anything from Dr. Ian Malcolm, did we? Okay. So they're normal, but their milk is weird. All right. I imagine there had to be someone in that laboratory when they were developing the spider goat who was just like, if this goes a certain way, we're going to have a monster movie on our hands. We have a goat with the proportional strength of a spider, 8 legs, and venom. And a hard carapace. No, that is an interesting pull from something that's actually real. I love that. That's fantastic. And just to finish things off here real quick, Patron Ais. These are the AIs that grant you your spells as a shaman. So you've got your bond that you have to roll depending on, you know, things that can happen. So Shaman commits to a lifelong service of a patron AI, forming a pact to gain its support. So long as the shaman continues to please it with their service, the patron may be a global computer network, satellite defense system, quantum consciousness, or other artificial intelligence who accepts the shaman's service. So you pray to Skynet, you do Skynet's bidding, and Skynet grants you powers, essentially. And it's like, you know, being a warlock or a cleric. You have to be faithful to the AI, or you can run into problems. Because these things literally rewrite your brain. That's how you get powers. There's a nice little Jack Kirby homage there. And you have a chroma. And along with this, you have, you know, powers that a chroma can grant you, wetware programs. And it's like this for all of them. You've got different wetware programs that are granted by your patron. Gaia, Global Array, Earth AI. Haley. Artificial intelligence that was once in charge of the hologrid entertainment networks of the Ancient Ones. Okay, so your patron is TV. Hexacoda. Holistic entry-exit AI coded on DNA. Mars Asynchronous Networked Galactic AI. This is the one that looks like Galactus. So Mangala was once a Mangala. Let's be careful saying that. Mangala was once a space probe agency AI in charge of monitoring the galactic plane for incoming threats, be they rogue planets, black holes, or alien incursions. Once armed with an array of all-powerful superweapons positioned throughout the solar system, Mangala was overwhelmed by an incoming threat that acted so instantaneously that the threat shut down Mangala before nature could be scanned. So, this is your, like, space super weaponry. You wanna call down the plasma sword, powered assault armor, that kind of stuff. There you go. There's your patron for it. Me 10. Mnemonic entity times 10 billion. Tetraplex. Transcendent extrapolating term research AI plexed. This is all fantastic. I love this. Because this is all very, like, Lawnmower Man stuff. And then Uker, Universal Kinetic Underground Rail. So this is a weird, like, dimension to it all with all this, like, AI stuff. Very Matrix, very Lawnmower Man, as I mentioned. It's super cool, though. I love that the magic system is based on AIs granting you powers. That's fantastic. And then, just here at the end, you've got the Assault on Sky High Tower, which is your funnel that Jim Wampler made for this particular book. So I actually didn't catch that, Lou, because, I mean, it's, you know, an old 60s cartoon. I am probably not familiar with that cartoon, unfortunately. But, yes, the Jetsons. I am familiar with the Jetsons, but that's hilarious. You're assaulting the Jetsons' house. That's great. Oh, I love it. There's Rosie. There we go. It's interesting the things that Jim put in here. The names, the bubble car. Yep. I gotcha. That's fantastic. Posey. Yep. I love it. I love it. This is great. And then, of course, at the end here, you've got a character sheet for a 0-level character. And some inserts here that, you know, mention, you know, Judge's Screen, Hive of the Overmind. I believe so. I got this in a bundle. It was a super cheap bundle of holding deal that I got all of this on. So I believe I've got at least the first 3 modules. Oh yeah, definitely like taking Elroy's hat. Your character's just wearing Elroy's hat the whole time. Or I imagine in the same way that like a barbarian would wear like a yak's head like and fur as a cape. You put like Rosie's head as on top of your head as a hat. That's great. But yeah, there's all kinds of supported modules for this. Lots of great ones put out by, of course, Jim Wampler. Tim Kask has done some work on this too. Michael Curtis. And, of course, I should mention that Lou in chat here has done a lot of great work. Lou currently is working on some great adventures for Mutant Crawl Classics, so definitely support him. He's been great here. Pakoto, you could definitely take Mutant Crawl Classics as a skeleton for a Fallout role-playing game if you didn't necessarily want to use the official one, or if you just like these rules better, which I do. So yeah, you could use this for Fallout. You could tweak it a little bit for Mad Max. In addition to the Terra AD setting, you could use this for your own crazy role-playing adventures in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, which is what I love about both of these books. And of course, as we mentioned, everything here is compatible with Dungeon Crawl Classics, so you can use them together. Like I mentioned, when I was playing Crypt of the Science Wizard, and when I was playing the game that Ian McGarty was running, we were using both. So we had some DCC and some MCC characters that we were using. And I believe there's also, yes, actually, there is a, complete section here on using DCC characters in MCC and using MCC characters in DCC. Including, here would be your bonus to artifact checks as a warrior, cleric, thief, wizard, elf, dwarf, or halfling. And just as a disclaimer, that Lou dropped in chat here, as he says, the adventures are unequal. Some are great, some are he likes Hive, Blessing of the Brotherhood, Posthumans, and Apocalypse Arc. Those are his favorites. And, check out what Dandelion Games is putting out, because I know it's going to be fantastic. But yeah, this is Mutant Crawl Classics. Just kind of a crash course in what it is, how the mechanics work, all that stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This has been great. I love diving into books like this and just, examining the mechanics and all that. So yeah, there's some great stuff in DCC. You can, reuse stuff like that. Even, like, if you were playing Chult, if you got Venger's Chult books, those practically are Mutant Crawl Classics. You could run Chult with MCC. I'm pretty sure he even says that. So yeah, there's all kinds of great options out there. And Pakoto mentions here you can port over DCC adventures to MCC. I wonder what it would be like to do like post-apocalyptic. Why did I just forget the name of their city? Fafhrd and Grey Mouser. That Lankmar. Post-apocalyptic Lankmar. You could also do America, Hubris, like Pakoto's mentioning here. I could even see 2000 AD. If you wanted to like run a Judge Dredd type game, you'd be leaning a lot more on tech, You might have to do a little bit more work if you wanted to like full on do Judge Dredd, but yeah, all that stuff. And heck, Pakoto, Gamma World Metamorphosis Alpha, this is basically like the spiritual successor to those. So, all that stuff is great. And, Luau mentions Frozen in Time as a DCC, MCC adventure. So, yeah, there's all kinds of great options out there, even leaving aside what your own mind can come up with on its own. So, you've got an embarrassment of riches out there to choose from. And people like Skeeter Green, Levi Combs, Luau, the Silver Boulets, they are constantly putting out stuff like this. Mud Puppy Games. Of course I need to mention Jim's company. He wrote the thing. There's all kinds of great support from Mutant Crawl Classics. I've had a lot of those guys on the show. There's tons of cool stuff to do. And so, we'll be looking a lot more at MCC and DCC moving forward because I love the system. They're awesome and fantastic. So that's going to do it for today's episode. I'm glad, Pakoto and Lou, I'm glad you guys could, drop by and chat, help me out a little bit here as we go through, these particular, rules. Next week, it'll be another solo episode. Don't quite know what I'm going to do yet. I will keep you guys posted. The week after that, on the 15th, we will be back in Night Haven. Another session of Shades of Grey with the Gamertarians and John and Joe Page. That'll be a ton of fun. Last session was a barn burner. Hopefully we can continue the momentum from there. But until then, guys, whether you rolled a 1 or a 20, I am so glad that you rolled your bones with me, Ryan Howard, and I will see you guys on the other side. Have a good night.